Mulțumim, Alex. We will switch to English because we wanted to promote this achievement for Romanian market outside Romania in the region. So this report will be published, as Alex said, on futurebanking.ro on the reports section. But also you can download it from the resources area in the virtual platform. So, Andrei, thank you for coming here, for accepting this challenge to discuss on this report.
Thank you for having us.
It is a first for Romania, and for sure we had a lot of challenges in building this report and reaching to all the banks that did some innovation in digital lending, digital account opening, remote account opening. But I'm sure you've seen many reports on digital transformation in different markets. So our digital banking scorecard is a snapshot of the progress that local banks and challengers, because we have 4 challenger banks, are showing today. But besides the newsworthy aspect of the report, do you think that banks are inspired or maybe motivated by such reports to speed up their innovations?
Definitely. Thank you. Thank you for having this initiative, first of all, to launch this ambitious program in Romania. I think banks definitely will be challenged by seeing the results of the report, because at the end of the day, we all want to learn from those reports. And I think there is too much information on digital transformation out there, but concrete facts and factoids, scorecards, numbers, rankings, I think this is what we really need right now, so banks can understand how they can differentiate, but how they can also become at par with the hygiene, as we call it right now, level of digital transformation currently. So I think this report is a good benchmark and a good ranking between banks, and it will motivate them definitely to step up and get to 100% achievement in those scorecard metrics. Congratulations for the initiative once again.
Thank you. Speaking about the hygiene factors and considering your services as FinTech OS, what do you consider a hygiene factor in digital proposition? Because our category was called digital proposition and included remote account opening, digital loans for SME and individuals.
Hygiene is many things. Let's look at the customer experience. And I think that when we take into account what customer experience is made of, it's a sum of many factors. One of them is how it looks, the user experience, the user interfaces actually, how it looks, how it behaves, how accessible it is to customers. I think that's the first step. And I have seen banks doing a good job, I would say, in driving the transformation in this first step. So hygiene right now is making your products available online. Hygiene is right now making sure that they are present on the customer experiences on the mobile phone, on the laptop. Whenever a customer is at the point of purchase, if you are looking to sell a loan to that customer, or at the point of inception, if you are looking to onboard the customer with a current account, these factors are hygiene, and the bank needs to be part of the customer's life, not to disturb that customer's life, but to enhance it and make it easier for him to use those financial services. This whole concept of ambient financial services and embedded financial services is slowly becoming also hygiene. I think banks that will not be part of the customers' lives, the daily lives of the customers, will not be able to do banking with the customers, because at the end of the day, banking is not done in branches and in offices anymore. Banking is done wherever the customer has a need, and that product or service can support that need fast. So that's becoming hygiene. That's my take on where the banking sector is right now in Romania, at least.
I know that you are doing business with maybe 7 or 8 banks from the report, and you have a good understanding of their challenges. And maybe you can tell us how did the banks that you worked with focus on customer experience at the same time with deploying these features. So it's a balance, I guess, between customer experience and the number of features that are being deployed in apps and in the market.
That's an interesting avenue that we can pursue now, because building on what I said before, customer experience is how it looks and how accessible it is and the whole user interface is. But customer experience is also the products and the personalization and the relevance of those products that you put in front of the customers. So you can be as personalized and you can create a customer experience as personalized as the weakest link in the chain, which is sometimes the product definition engine of a bank. If you can only support 2 products and they are static, you can have the most personalized customer experience to put in front of the customers. If you only have those 2 products, there is no personalization there. There is no relevance to the customer. They would need to choose between product A and product B. So we say that in the report, and you say it as well, that this period right now marks the end of the beginning of the digital transformation. So banks are right now in full speed in terms of transformation. That's going to be the next step, to really define those differentiated value propositions that are supported by innovative lending engines, product definition engines, that allow for that differentiated value propositions to be created and then surfaced in the customer experience. It looks nice, it feels nice, but it needs to be relevant. That's the second part. It needs to be relevant for me, for the need I have as a customer at that particular moment in time, and it needs to surface that product that can support that need I have. It's not enough to have 2 static personal loans, option 1 and option 2, and make a very personalized experience for me. There is no relevance in that in that motion.
I understand. In the report, Doru, the CEO of FinTech.OS, approached the customer-centric problem, and I was curious to know how a customer-centric digital lending flow should look like, because for sure different banks had different approaches to the customer-centric problem.
As the title or the question says, it has to have the customer at the center, right? It has to be, and I'm going to double down on that, it has to be personal and it has to be relevant. And I'm saying personal, not personalized, because personalization is already passé. Personal is what really differentiates banks in the new era of digital banking. The customer journey itself is only one step. I wouldn't say it's a small step, but it's one step of a sum of different factors we need to look at when we build a differentiated value proposition. Because first you need to, I just quickly go through this because I think it's relevant for everyone to see the depth and breadth of information that you need to look at, putting the customer at the center and the data around that customer at the core of building that value proposition. There are so many things besides the customer journey that we need to look at. First, we need to understand when is the right time to engage with that customer. Demographics is one thing at looking at it. A 25-year-old person might want to buy a house if in the last 3 months or in the last 2 years they have continuously increased their deposits. Open banking is helping us get access to that information. So what's the right moment to go after a specific customer type? Then the second thing is, what's the problem that that customer has? Customers don't know what the bank's products are. They know what their problem is. They know they want to buy a home and they want to furnish it. An SME or an SMB customer knows they want to pay salaries to their employees. They know they need to buy that piece of equipment so they can increase their productivity. So this is the need they have. The product that can support that need needs to be very personal to their particular ambition. Then once we figure that out, is how do we build a product that can solve that problem? So we understand when's the best moment to attack. Yeah. What is exactly the problem they have? What's the product that can support that problem? And once we figure out what's the product or the service, we realize banks cannot do it alone. I wouldn't expect a bank to go into furniture selling business tomorrow, but I do expect that in my customer experience, when I'm buying a home, I will have access to this kind of services, and the bank would provide this ecosystem of services around me. So the next step is to find partnerships around my value proposition that can really support and fix that customer problem, address that customer problem. And only then, after we do all these 4 steps, we can build a relevant customer experience and the real customer journey that encompasses the best moment when the customer can be addressed with the problem they have and the product and the ecosystem of solutions that we put forward for that customer. And obviously, the last step is making sure that you can administer that product and you can book all those transactions against a particular loan and everything else. The loan management part and the back office part is important because you will end up with some loans that are very different than the loans that currently banks are putting on the market. And the combination of multiple solutions through an ecosystem of partners that will be put forward to solve that customer problem. So I think this is what we should look at, putting the customer in the center, the data about that customer at the core of the value proposition, innovate fast, and empower the business users to create and test and launch that value propositions into the market fast so customers can react to them and you can get feedback and you can improve every day. That's what good customer experience is all about at the end of the day.
Cool. We've seen banks that started this digital transformation journey years ago, and they are the first movers. And now a lot of banks are speeding up on this journey and trying to leapfrog maybe some of the steps. But I wanted to ask you, what are the benefits of being a first mover, and in the digital lending at least, and maybe to separate the retail business and the SME business?
Sure. Well, it's obvious when you are a first mover, you gain market share fast. And I think that's very important because as you gain market share, you decrease that barrier to switch or barrier to entry. Look at neobanks. They came with a value proposition that was so specific to a customer problem, low FX rates. You go with your friends out to dinner, you can split the bill and get your money instantly, instant payments. The move from a traditional bank to a neobank was so easy because it was so personal and so relevant to the customer. So as you are the first mover, you get access to many customers. Obviously, that means increase in revenues, increase in profitability, the top line. But then you need to be looking at what do you do with those customers, because you build a critical mass of customers that then you can build on top of and really expand and enlarge your product portfolio with those customers. And I think that's the key. So you gain market share fast if you are a first entrant into the market, but then you have a critical mass of customers that you can really build a community with, and you can start driving fast innovation cycles with them. You engage with the customers, you make sure that you gather feedback fast, innovate. I think the silver bullet here is the time to market. How fast you can get new products, new features, new personal experiences for those customers into the market so they can benefit from them, and then you can expand your revenue. Because you will own a big part of that pie, you will own a big part of the hearts and minds of those customers. It's in your control to make sure that you evolve the relationship and you diversify your product offering and product portfolio to those customers while you listen to them and while you invent and innovate together with them. I think these are the two main benefits of being a first entrant into a market and making that step fast.
I know that half of the Romanian banks are on different milestones in this digital journey, but the other half it's still at the ground root. So what would you recommend for banks that have a lower score or are missing in our report because they don't have enough digital features to be there? In order to leapfrog their digital transformation, how to approach this? Maybe you know about banks that already started the process with you or with other providers, but for those that didn't start anything till now, what do you recommend?
Come talk to us. If you look at the results, the top 3 ranked banks in the report are working with FinTech OS already. But advertising aside, I think all the banks need to have a clear plan on how do they achieve 100% scores on the scorecard metrics that you presented, and they do that fast. So they need to understand what are the gaps. And to your first question, that's why I think this report is relevant, because it clearly shows banks where they need to get better and what they need to get better at. So they need to put in place a clear plan on how to achieve 100% score on those scorecard metrics. We can help with that because we have built out-of-the-box standard customer experiences for the basic offerings in the market. Current account opening, lending processes, secured, unsecured lending, credit cards. insurance products, and a combination of those two is essential right now if you look at mortgages and home buying experiences.
Yeah.
So that would be the first step I would recommend any bank to get in the game and get at parity with all the others and achieve the 100% mark there. It's hygiene, coming back to the first point. Then what I recommend, and that's a tougher one, I recommend, as I learned, the English phrase goes, open up the kimono. Start sharing ideas around roadmap planning. Start sharing ideas around what they need to achieve in the future. Build an ecosystem of support around themselves, from technology partners, business stakeholders, partner companies that they need to build those differentiated value propositions with, and provide access to a platform that everyone can create differentiated propositions and products on. But opening up to this aspect is going to be very difficult for banks, because sometimes they want to keep the secret themselves.
Yeah.
But as long as they understand it's in the benefit of the customer, and putting the customer at the center of all this discussion is the relevant thing to do, building this ecosystem of creators, putting forward the platform that can support the co-creation of customer experiences, customer journeys, differentiated products, is the relevant thing to do. And the third one, I would say, is to empower more the business users. There are simply not enough programmers in the world and technical people to build custom products, to maintain and run custom products, infrastructures, technology. They simply cannot keep up with the speed and pace at which banks really need to launch products into the market, create propositions, validate with customers, and provide that continuous feedback loop. So I would say these are the three things. Plan how you get to 100%, open up and start partnering with different companies, and then empower the business users to really own and create those propositions and put them into the market fast, so they can innovate and create that feedback loop, continuous feedback loop.
A short disclosure here, for the second edition, it won't be the same metrics, so we will constantly upgrade the metrics. So
of course.
No bank could achieve maybe the 100% scale. So because now it's a snapshot of what is hygiene and what is maybe wishful products, wishful features. But next year it will be like more and more features. Looking at maybe at the Western banks or neo-banks that are driving the transformation, and we will constantly add new and new features. It will be tougher to achieve all those.
It's like gamification, right? You start with something basic, they achieve it, they get rewarded, and then you can continuously add new stuff. That's the game. That's why rapid innovation is important. That's why feedback loops are important. So you understand ahead of the market what is needed, what those customers' problems are, and you start servicing them with a differentiated value proposition. And that's spot on.
And the final question, because I've seen a lot of talk about design thinking, co-creation, and a lot of banks had these labs where they co-create with the customers. First of all, maybe you could explain what these concepts are, and after that, how did the process work in Romania for the Romanian banks, and maybe you have interesting use cases to share from these digital labs.
I think more and more banks embrace this concept of co-creation, opening up, as I said, opening up the kimono and listening to customers, listening to partners. It's all about building that continuous feedback loop. If you are in a fixed mindset in which you have a product that you want to push through some channels to the market, you might end up out of business in some time, because those channels are not relevant to the customers anymore. The branches and the offices of the banks are not relevant. It's the digital experience that matters, right? So that concept of design thinking makes sure that those continuous feedback loops are used in the process of innovation and creating of digital products. So we need to have around the table all the stakeholders and the relevant parties that can contribute to building that differentiated value proposition, and that can validate very fast with the market. So you need to have a representation from the market, you need to have a representation from the bank business owners and product owners, you need to have a representation from technology companies that provide different services, so you can start building those products fast. And we've seen good examples. We've seen Banca Transilvania driving a lot of initiatives in the market around design thinking. We have done that with BRD, with Societe Generale. We have done that with OTP Bank. And we've done it for two reasons. Obviously, one was very pragmatic. They wanted to achieve that best-in-class customer experience for their customers, obviously, like everyone does. The other motivation for us to participate and work in those design thinking workshops was for us to get away with a minimum standard that is relevant to the Romanian market, so we can build those out-of-the-box components and out-of-the-box customer experiences that all the banks in the country can use. They can deploy in a matter of weeks and can take them to closer to the 100% mark on the scorecard metrics, right? So design thinking is important primarily because it makes sure that this feedback loop between the customers, what they expect, the banks, what they can offer, and partners in the ecosystem that can also contribute to that differentiated value proposition are constantly looked at and are constantly validated. And I congratulate all the banks in Romania that have started doing that. This is something that banks in the west part of the world are doing for some time now, and this is what needs to happen as well here. So congratulations for all those embrace it, and a challenge to the ones that have not embraced it yet. Come and talk to us, and we will show you how you can achieve that 100% score faster, and then how you can build those differentiated value propositions using a low-code, no-code platform where everyone can create, everyone can validate, and can contribute to building that proposition to the customers.
Andrei, thank you very much for joining us and for this lovely chat about digital transformation. We will pass on the mic to Daniel Pana that will moderate the next panel, but before that we will take a short commercial break. So thank you for staying with us and watching this conference.